Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am excited to have this conversation today with Sandy Park. She is the owner and founder of Tidy with Spark, a home organization and decluttering service specializing in the KonMari method, which we are going to learn all about today. And I'm a bit new to, I've heard of it, and I'm super excited about decluttering, the concept of decluttering. So I'm excited to learn more. She is a certified KonMari consultant, and she's expertly trained to support clients through their tidying journeys. She knows all about the magic of tidying up, as she actually, what she likes to say, KonMari'd her career. So I'm excited to learn about that as well. Welcome to the show today, Sandy.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to share your story. Let's go back and let's talk about your career path. Maybe even kick us off with, where are you from? Where'd you go to school? I see you are a CPA. So let's talk about that a bit, and then let's get into your career path.
Wonderful. So I live in Southern California right now, but I moved here about a year ago from Austin, Texas. I was raised in Texas, grew up there, and I actually went to college there at the University of Texas at Austin. So my career started with going to college for business and more specifically accounting. It was the path that my parents wanted me to take. And at the time when you're young, you're 18, you just kind of don't know. And so I went with the guidance of my parents. But what I realized very quickly was that I didn't like it. I didn't like accounting, and I really struggled to see that this was going to be my career path. But I was also working through the expectations of my family, and being a first generation, being an immigrant, actually. I came to the United States when I was 2 years old. Being an immigrant, I just felt I really needed to do this for my family, and I just had these expectations of myself. And so
I hear this a lot, and sorry to pause you there for a sec, but I want to talk about that for a minute, because I have conversations like this many times where that expectation of family. I had a conversation last week with one of our members who, her parents wanted her to be an attorney, and she went all the way through law school and just decided it wasn't for her. So it's certainly understandable. And you spent quite a while in accounting, as I look at your profile here.
Yes, indeed. So I stuck with it. I just felt like that pull of the expectations was so strong that I had to just meet the expectations. So I went through college knowing that I didn't like accounting, went through the CPA exam and passed it, and went through my career doing all of the things that were pretty much expected of me with my career in accounting. And I just moved along. And then fast forward, I did that for 20 years. Wow. So I spent all of this energy, all of this time working towards a goal that was really my family's goal, not necessarily my own goal. And because of that strong expectation that I had from them. And where KonMari kind of comes into the mix is when I was pregnant with my second child, I just was really overwhelmed with all of the stuff. As you can imagine, a lot of Americans and people around the world are dealing with this right now. And with the onset of a new baby, that brings along a lot of new things and a lot of items that maybe you don't need, but you kind of feel like you do. And so I was extremely overwhelmed at this point in my career, in my life, my personal life. And a friend told me about Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And that year was 2015, and it had just been translated into English, I want to say about 6 months at that point. And so I got a hold of it, and I read it in one day. It was as if Marie was talking to me. And so this book was so incredibly transformational because it was asking the question, how do you want to live your life? And at that moment, I wasn't living the life that I wanted. And so it spoke to me very deeply. And that was the beginning of my KonMari journey. After I read the book, I applied the method in my own home, and then I just kept going with it. And I saw that as I embodied the philosophy of the method beyond just decluttering of my things, I saw that it really transformed me in other ways in my life. And so fast forward, I was eventually able to KonMari my career of being an accountant, really, or working in that field. Right now, I am still a certified public accountant. That's probably something I'm not going to let go of, that license.
Yeah.
However, I did let go of that profession. And to me, that was a huge thing because I was very much, I don't want to say letting go of the expectations that I had or what my parents had for me, but really reconciling and saying that I should live this life for myself. And really stepping into that through this method and this whole process and her philosophy, the KonMari philosophy.
Well, let me just pause there, Sandy. I mean, you were in a career that you weren't in love with for 20 years. I mean, that's that's pretty significant. I mean, when you did you ever have conversations with your parents throughout that period of time and letting them know that this you weren't, really loving the path that you were on, or did you just keep quiet about that?
I did. I was vocal, and
Okay.
truthfully, I believe that they knew that I didn't like it either. But we knew that it was recession proof. It was a very
Mhm.
solid career, and it is. It is a very wonderful profession, and it has served me very well over these past years. But it just really wasn't for me, and I did stick it out. And that it's not something that I regret because I certainly learned a lot of skill sets along that period and during that time. But um, I was forcing myself to do something to fit in line with what they expected.
Yeah.
And finally, that's why what I feel today is so freeing, because I was finally able to say that what I wanted for myself was just as important as what my parents wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am glad that you made that decision. And I want to spend some time talking about the method. Maybe take us back a little bit and talk about the founder of this method and what the method is, and just take us through it.
Absolutely. So Marie Kondo is a Japanese home organization guru who wrote The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. It's a #1 best-selling book that was translated into, I believe, over 30 languages worldwide, and it sold well over 10 million copies. And from that, she created a series, a network series, I believe, on Netflix called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo, where it's an 8-episode series where she goes along and profiles different people in their KonMari journeys, and she's guiding them through that process. And what the KonMari method is in its entirety is really a decluttering method, but really it goes deeper than that. It's not just about your things. It's really about figuring out what you want in your life, defining what that vision is, and then doing the work to get there. And so that really spoke to me because, like I said, I was in a transitional period from my life. And so that's where it does speak to people when they are in periods of transition where they are downsizing, or they're moving from one career to another, or maybe they're going through some personal changes like a divorce or losing a loved one. And so this is where by being able to examine our things, we're actually examining our life and
Mm.
confronting ourselves. And so that is what this philosophy is about. And one of the things you may have heard from her is the concept of spark joy. And what that is you hold an item in your hand and you bring it close to your heart, and you really evaluate and make an assessment of how it makes you feel. And based on that, that's how you make a decision of whether or not you keep that item in your life or if you let it go, and letting it go with gratitude. That is another cornerstone of the method, is living a life with gratitude. And so this philosophy, as you can imagine, just goes well beyond your things. Once people have gone through their homes and put their homes in order, they see that this really goes into other areas of their life. And like for myself, it went into my career. And it can also go into people's personal lives in the sense that they may find that relationships that they had for a long time no longer serve them either. So this is the big, broad idea of KonMari. And really, it's about keeping joy and surrounding yourself with joyful things in your life. And that can be in your career. It can be the objects that you allow into your home to serve you, or it can be with relationships as well. And it's not, which is kind of a misconception with some people, it's not about getting rid of stuff. It's really about keeping only those things that truly spark joy in your life.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm processing this. So let's take some examples. I'm gonna throw out 2 examples, and you can give me feedback on this. So one example is I'm gonna go to the tangible stuff piece of this, material items. I have a significant collection of family heirlooms like china and all kinds of, glassware and very interesting things from both sides of my grandparents. And while I love these items because of what they represent, I'm torn in having a house that feels cluttered, so to speak, versus like throwing this in a closet and never looking at it. So maybe talk me through the process. Let's do a little therapy here if we can, Sandy. What would you say about, items like that? These, even sometimes people have furniture, big pieces of furniture that are family, from family. Are these things we need to keep, or how do we evaluate that?
Absolutely. So the items that you're discussing right now and referencing are part of the sentimental category. So the KonMari method has 5 categories. And the one that we start with is the easiest, which is clothing. Then it goes to books, papers, miscellaneous / kimono, that's the Japanese word. And then the final category is sentimental. And as you're saying, which is true, it is very difficult to assess these sentimental items. And sentimental items can range the whole gamut of these items. It could be a clothing item that is maybe gifted to you from someone special in your life, or it can be a piece of china that you're also referencing. So in this particular example, what's really important is to ask yourself a few different questions. And what I do when I work with my clients is I say, when did you use this piece of china last?
Never.
And never. Okay. So you've never used it. And so then my question would be, how come you haven't used it?
Because it's in a box in my closet and it seems daunting to get it out and get it all polished up and wash it and use it. And I don't really have an occasion to use it, frankly.
Right. Polish it up and go through that whole exercise to use it. So then my question would be, how is this item or these items serving you today?
It depends on how you define serving, I guess. But, I have a hard time thinking about letting go of them because they're a family heirloom, right? But they're not really serving
being
me,
utilized.
I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and if these items are so important, they maybe don't belong in a box. Maybe you want to bring them out to the open. And if you're saying that you've got all of this china from both sides of your family and they're being unused and there's a big volume of them, maybe you pick out your favorites. And those are the ones that you choose to display in your home as a reminder of your family background and your grandparents. But then the rest, you mindfully let go. And think about this. Right now, this china, how if it's not serving you, is it actually doing its intended purpose?
Good point.
And if it's not, can it be used by someone else who could utilize it and benefit from it? And so that's where when we talk about letting go, you retain the pieces that you absolutely love, and then the rest you with gratitude let go so that it can be used by somebody else. And that can be used and cherished and loved by somebody else. And so this is the most difficult category to go through, sentimental, and that is precisely why it's the last category. You want to go through the clothing and all of the other categories first so that you build your muscle, your joy checking muscle. And what I mean by that is as you go through this process and you assess whether or not something sparks joy, you're going to get better at it. And it is literally a skill. And so by this point, you will have gone through all of your things in your home. And then by the time you assess your china, you'll be able to be more connected with yourself to say, yes, this sparks joy, or truly it does not.
Yeah. I guess probably as you're saying this, what's going through my mind is a bit of guilt, right? Like, how could I let go of this? What would my family think?
Absolutely.
So it's been interesting.
And that is truly what a lot of people go through, is that guilt. But these are supposed to be gifts. And when the gift was given to you, that is the gift. The joy of the transfer of the love from the person who gifted it to you. It is not in the item. The item is just the china.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The joy and the love that they gave you when they gifted it to you, that is the gift. And the gift has already been given to you.
Good point. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right. Let's go to the easy one, my closet. All right. What are your rules there?
So for the closet, generally what we do, the way that we start, and even before we even get to the closet, you have to start with your vision and really assess what kind of life you want to live. And once you've spent a good bit of time figuring that out, you start with the clothing category. And with the clothing, you want to bring it all out. So you want to find a space that is a clean area, maybe another bed in a spare bedroom, and you want to bring all of your clothes into that room and pile everything up. And that includes everything that's in the dresser, anything that's in your closet, anything that's in the hallway closet. A key point in the KonMari method is that you bring everything in that category together, regardless of where the location is. So if you have some stuff in your car, you've got some things in the garage, all of that, if it pertains to clothing, comes together at that one time. And the reason why we do this is so that you can truly assess what you have. If you don't see what you have, you will not have an idea of how much you have, and then how are you going to be able to assess all of the stuff? So one way to make this more manageable is when you create this pile, you can create it by subcategory. So when we're talking about clothing, you can have your pants be a subcategory, your tops be a subcategory, dresses be a subcategory, and that's how you're going to assess your item, is by going through each subcategory by subcategory. And when we do that, you hold the item as we talked about before, and you decide and make the assessment, does this item spark joy in my life? And what you want to do is you really want to focus and hone in on the emotion of it. How does it actually make you feel? So a lot of times what spark joy means, it's kind of a difficult concept for people to nail down. But when you hold the item, if it makes you feel lighter and energetic, and it just gives you this kind of energy, that means it sparks joy. If it's something that makes you feel heavy and lethargic and guilt-ridden, honestly, then that's an item that does not spark joy. And so we make this assessment one by one of all of our items.
Wow. Okay. That that could take some time. I have a few articles of clothing. So you just hold it. So you're not suggesting somebody actually try it on and see how it makes them feel.
Sometimes you do need to try it on, but we leave that to a pile towards the end of a session, so to speak, and that way they have the ample time to touch those items, put the clothes on, and make a deeper assessment, because this is the first category and you're just building your skill set on this category. And so it's important to give yourself that time to hone in on those skills. So yes, you touch it one by one, and surprisingly, once people get the idea and they get the concept down, it moves pretty quickly. And of course, it's very much varies by the individual. And then once you decide all of the ones that spark joy, you reserve those to the side, and all the ones that do not, you let it go with gratitude, and you put those to the side and make a decision on how you want to discard those.
Got it.
Whether that is Goodwill or any other resources, there's different things out there like ThreadUp, things like that.
Got it. All right. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I've got to process that a bit and come back to that for sure. Maybe give us a story, Sandy, if you would, maybe an example client that you've worked with in the last year or so that would really illustrate some of the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. One of the clients that I worked with actually had gone through a divorce and had been divorced, I want to say about 4 years, but she had not let go of any of her divorce papers, even though the divorce has been finalized, everything was sealed and done. And she really wasn't moving forward with her life because she hadn't processed the divorce. And so I know that for different people that can take a long time, but when we met and we went through the KonMari method together, it really opened up so much in her life to where she realized, oh, I don't even put pictures up on my wall because I haven't let go of my past. So many little tiny things like, oh, I'm holding on to my ex-spouse's X, Y, and Z because she hasn't fully processed her new life. And doing that reconciliation kind of happened through this whole process. And it was a lot of emotion that came out as she was going through all of her things and holding on to the past. When we have a difficulty, Marie Kondo says, when it's difficult for us to let something go, it's usually because we have an attachment to the past or a fear of the future. And that was very much where she was as she was going through this process and going through her own tidying journey. And so by the end of her tidying marathon is what we call it, she was completely transformed. And she told me with tears coming down her face is that this is not about your things. This is about your life, truly. And she just said it was so incredible and lifting and freeing to finally be at this point in her life and being able to step into who she's meant to be instead of living so much in the past.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. And I think just the emotion around items, around experiences that we've had with certain items. And I want to take that to, before I ask you, what's on the horizon for your business, I want to pause a bit and talk about things, right? Material things. Because I feel like we're in this time of, more and more and more, especially with electronic items and the ease of jumping on Amazon and having something at your doorstep the next day. What are some of the things that you talk about with your clients of even, like not even getting to the point where you have to clear, more so like not even putting yourself in that position with material items?
Absolutely. So a big thing for me, and one thing that I explain and teach my clients on, is this practice of mindfulness and intentionality. And so once you've decluttered your home, you're in no real danger of having things that don't spark joy unless you are bringing things into your home. So bringing things into your home is such a critical thing. And so if we have intentionality behind that and we use mindfulness to bring things into our home, that's when we're going to be set. And we have absolutely totally changed our thinking with how we respond to our things and our relationship to things. So I really hone in on this concept because if you can really go through different questions as you decide whether or not something should enter your home, that's what you really need to do. You need to be that gatekeeper and not just let anything come into your home. One example is I work with moms with children, and they're going to attend a birthday party and they get the goodie bag. And this goodie bag may be filled with just a bunch of plastic toys or nonsense that maybe you don't want in your home, but saying no to those things and not allowing it into your home before. And that is the key, is you got to make sure that you don't let these things get into your life and overrule your life. And that's how you kind of got here in the first place. So having intentionality and really asking yourself, does this serve me? Do I need this? Is there something else in my home that can duplicate as this and serve me in the same way? Do I absolutely need this particular item? Going through these questions is a great idea to make sure you don't let things come into your house. One other thing that I do is for my own self, if there's something that I want and I want to make sure it's not an impulse buy, I give myself 2 weeks to think about it, to make sure this is not an impulse buy. Yeah. And if at the end of the 2 weeks I still want it, then by all means, I allow myself to go get it, especially if it's going to serve me in my life. And the duration can be anything for anyone. It can be a month. It can be a week. It just totally depends on the individual, but mindfully and intentionally looking for that item is the key here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do have to say I do that with Amazon a bit. I'll put it in my cart and then I'll wait and go back to it. And, do I really need this? Maybe not.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sandy, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to in 2020 as it relates to your business?
So I have started speaking at different workshops, giving my own workshop on the KonMari method. And so I'm very excited about moving into that area so that I can help organize the world and spread the message a lot broader to different folks. So I'm excited for that. And I launched my entrepreneurial journey this year. So I'm very new at this and everything is brand new. And so it's been super exciting to go through all of the pieces, wearing all the different hats. So for next year, I'm really interested in making this bigger, maybe bringing on virtual assistants to help me in different ways so that I can help my clients and serve them in bigger and better ways. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to in 2020.
Fantastic. Well, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, Sandy, what's the best way for them to do that?
I have a website. It's tidywithspark.com, and I'm also on Instagram at the handle tidywithspark, and pretty much every social media platform is tidywithspark.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Sandy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.